Thank you. So, good evening, good morning, good night, wherever you are. In fact, good afternoon, wherever you are. We have come to another session of the Consensusism Study Group, and we have with us our dedicated and and yeah, dedicated group of brothers and sisters across the globe, um, based in UK, the African Caribbean, um, the African continent, and all across. And so we welcome you all, Simon Chibi, Brother Joseph Antoine, Sister Tapua, Sister Myra, who I understand is in the gym and so can speak, Brother Carrington, and Brother Pigeon, who is our host. Brother Carrington is special to us because he's also our resident physicist. And so when we have arguments about physical theory, what he says is final. So thank you all for coming. It's interesting. I think missed a few of these, at least one. Some of us don't realize the importance of what we're doing. No, that's not quite right. I think we realize the importance, but I think the far-reaching implication of what we are doing. People are watching us. People are listening to us. People are seeing what we are doing as a sign of our dedication to the cause, and it is just amazing. We don't realize that. Brother Pigeon will remind us, for instance, that people talk about our consistency, the fact that we meet every Thursday without fail. And for some people, that is like, wow, you guys are really dedicated. So thank you all for coming, brothers and sisters. And let's proceed with our class where we read, and everyone can read if they want. You don't have to. But when we started this class offline in the West Indian Ex-Service Men and Women Association building in Clapham South in London, we used to read and go around the table and read, and we all read in turn, and then we read and then we discussed. People brought food, we took donations, people brought food, and it was just amazing. It was just an amazing. And when COVID came, we moved online, guided by the suggestion of Brother Michael, who doesn't attend the class very often these days, but is helping to develop another part of our work. As conscientists, he is focused on the Consensusism Mathematics study group, and that's something he will come and tell us about once it's up and running. As you know, mathematics and statistics are fundamental to consensusism, as is physics. So we read and then we share our thinking. We don't share how we feel. We don't share our opinion, because opinion sometimes are not based on facts. They are based on anecdotes and sometimes stereotyping and so on. So we share our thinking, and that's very important for us. Of course, you can share your feeling and so on if you want, but we in this class would like you to share your thinking. But your thinking, what is going on in your mind, is for us crucial, because that is the site for the highest contestation over every part of our personality. And that is where the enemy targets. And when I say the enemy, I mean imperialism and its instruments, colonialism and neocolonialism. So welcome to another Thursday class. We don't see any end to these classes. It's going to continue and continue. Sees as a permanent feature of the African philosophical and ideological landscape. And we can only stop, or if you like, go over it, refine it, when we have achieved its strategic goals, which are unification, development, and the total liberation of Africa. When we have achieved that goal, we then need to maintain that. So there's a lot to be done. And so we continue. So consensusism is a philosophy, the ideology of progressive Pan-Africanism. As we all know, we've mentioned this in this class several times, there is something called conservative Pan-Africanism. There is also liberal Pan-Africanism. And then there is also progressive Pan-Africanism. Yeah. So the struggle during the struggle for the liberation of Africa, as you know, there were two groups. There were two groups of African leaders, the Monrovia group and the other group. And essentially, it was the liberals and the conservatives on one side, with the imperialists, and the progressives on the other side. And they could not agree on whether the continent should be united or not. And in the end, there was a compromise called the African Union. The Organization of African Unity, which has metamorphosed into the African Union, which, as we all can see today, is just a club for the liberal and the conservative leaders, because I cannot see any leader of any African continent today that is a progressive. The soldiers who are in charge in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Chad, and so on, they are, if you like, workers. Yeah, they are workers who have taken control of their country. Workers in the sense that they are workers like any other workers, but they work in the security services. So if you like, you can see it as a worker state, but people don't see that. People don't normally see soldiers and police and intelligence officers also as workers, just like teachers and doctors and lawyers. All of us are workers. And they are also workers, but their work sometimes involves the handling of offensive weapons. And so sometimes people tend to see them as a separate category, but they are just workers like everybody else. Their work involves securing the state, securing peace, securing crime, ensure there's no crime, but they are still workers. And one would argue that there's no reason why that group of workers should have any more right to run the state as opposed the time is 7:27. I've gone on a little bit, but it's all to lay the context for the class. So we shall read, and Brother Pigeon, can you scroll down so we can see, unless you want us to read the paragraph before? Yeah, is that the idea?
I want to just read
down to where you've highlighted so that we can read and then share.
I want to read the Brother Kwame.
Yeah.
Thank you. I want just to read briefly the paragraph before, not just to either share thinking, but just to read it before now we get to this paragraph. Just read it.
As so the highlighted paragraph is what we're reading today. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
All right. So scroll up and read the paragraph before then.
Yes. Now, in our last class we read actually the two paragraphs, which start with Thales. If you permit me, I can read it just briefly. Then now we can maybe start with the paragraph today.
Yeah, carry on.
Okay, thank you. And thank you to all those who have joined us. It's always a pleasure to have you around. Now, in our previous class, we read the two paragraphs, starting with the first paragraph here written, the paragraph on top, that Thales' successor, Anaximander, reasoned, however, that the unity of nature could not by itself guarantee equality and impartiality. Indeed, Thales himself was a bourgeois something like that, in his actual political life. Anaximander thought a need was felt for an active social principle which would eliminate and function social structure. This he called principle of justice, a groundwork principle in which Anaximander's system regulated both social organization and metaphysical generation of things. In his philosophy, he conceived a stock of neutral material in which nothing was differentiated, a boundless, futureless, eternal expanse whose resentlessness separated out the things of this world. These things abide in the world for a time, measured out accordingly to principle of justice. At the end of their time, they give way to other things and flow back whence they came, back into the boundless neutral stock. So whereas at first blush, Anaximander seems to have diverged widely from Thales, his master and conceptual instruments, not to from his masters and friend. He in fact only tried to secure a similar social objective by means of conceptual instruments, not too different from those of Thales. The early Greek philosophers had a social moral preoccupation which they express in terms of metaphysics. It was this social moral preoccupation which made them continual sufferers of political persecution. That's what we read in last class. Sister Tapua, can you be able to read for us the highlighted paragraph for today, please?
Yes, I'll do that. The point I wish to underline in this respect is that the priests had grounded their power and all manner of social hierarchy in their supernatural account of the world. To destroy sacerdotal power and its associated arbitrary social structure, it was necessary to remove their grounding. It was necessary to give a natural account of the world. In this way, philosophy served as an instrument of social justice.
Right. Can you hold on, Sister Tapua? Sorry.
Okay.
Brother Pigeon, I will not chair, yeah? So, Sister Tapua, can you read a bit slower for us? Can you just
Beg your pardon?
Read a bit slower.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Should I go on to the next paragraph, or should I go?
Read the same paragraph, but just slow down,
but slower
for us. Yes.
Okay. The point I wish to underline in this respect is that the priests had grounded their power and all manner of social hierarchy in their supernatural account of the world. It was necessary to remove their grounding. It was necessary to give a natural account of the world. In this way, philosophy served as an instrument of social justice.
Thank you.
However, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, continue.
Okay.
Yeah, that pace is brilliant for us all.
All right. Yeah. However, revolutionary were the monists. That is to say, those who claimed that everything was at bottom the same thing. They were still bogged down once they had claimed the fundamental equality of all. It is possible.
Slow down. You are really good to go faster. Slow down.
Okay.
Slow down.
It is possible, admittedly, to regard Anaximander as having had an awareness of this stagnation, for he envisaged not a static and immobile social equality, but a social equality pursued at all times by the active principle of justice. Anaximander was not a lotus eater. He could not allow society to remain dormant, complacent with the social structure which was current in his time. His principle of justice was one which called for social change, for he could not see an egalitarian society as one in which everything was permanently as it was permanently as it was, in which inequalities remained undisturbed. It fell to Heraclitus. I can't read that. Heraclitus.
Yes, I think that should be all right. Yeah.
Okay, Heraclitus, to introduce the notion of growth into the conception of society.
All right, thank you very much. That piece was just excellent for us.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we shall share our thinking. So we'll come back to you, Sister Apua, because you read. So take a deep breath. We'll come back to you.
Thank you.
Let's hear what brothers and sisters think about what we have read. Brother Pigeon, can we start with you, please? Share your thinking.
I didn't see that coming. Okay. Let me. I wanted to look for some meanings of some words here, but let me start off.
Okay, that is a good idea. Do you do that?
Yeah, I was trying to see if I could mark some of the words here, like seductual power.
Yes, sacerdotal means the priests. That one we can, yeah, it's just the priesthood.
That's the priesthood. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the first paragraph, which I'm so much.
Which other one would you like?
The other one.
Yeah.
The other one was on this one I wanted to look is lotus eater.
Yeah,
the lotus eating lotus.
Yeah, lotus eater is those who live in a dreamy state. They don't take part in practical life. They just sit down and dream about things. That's what it means.
Okay.
So lotus eater refers to a person I'm reading who lives in a state of dreamy indolence and effortless luxury, often detached from the practical concerns and challenges of life. Yeah. So the term originates from the Greek mythology and literature referred to as Homer's epic, the Odyssey. That's where it comes from. So basically, so lotus is meant to be like the meal of the gods. The gods eat lotus. So basically, they don't take part in practical life. You know, maybe because they are so rich, a lot of money, something like that. So they don't take part in practical life. That's what a lotus eater is.
Okay.
Any other?
I don't know if no. Let me check. I think that's okay for me.
Okay. All right. Share your thinking.
Can I just make a comment about the lotus eaters?
Of course.
I thought on the Odyssey or whatever it is, they went to some island where it was like they were on drugs or something. So they were giving drugs, so they were lotus eaters and wouldn't do anything, didn't want to continue with is what I remember hearing about it. I haven't read it, but I remember hearing that about the lotus eaters and the Odyssey. So thank you. So I think they had to be bound up and put back in the ship and then taken away so that they could cut the drugs off.
Yes, so, it's either they in Homer's epic, the Odyssey, the island is associated with lotus eaters. It's referred to as the land of the lotus eaters.
Yes.
Or simply the land of the lotus eaters. So they encountered this island in their journey.
Yes.
Back to Ithaca after the Trojan War. And when they got to the island, Odysseus sends out a scouting party to explore. And that's where they encountered these lotus eaters. And
Yes, it's all about drugs.
Yeah, they offer them the fruit of the lotus plant.
Uh-huh.
The lotus plant. What plant do we know that produces fruits that have?
Yes.
So the fruit has a powerful narcotic effect. You talk about narcotics here.
Yes.
Causing those who eat it to forget about their desire to return home.
Yeah.
And instead want to stay on the island, living in blissful forgetfulness.
Mm-hmm.
So realizing the danger, Odysseus forcefully retired his men. He retrieved his men and quickly set sail to prevent anyone else from succumbing to the temptation of the lotus fruit. So back in Ghana, I have never smoked weed before, but those who smoke the weed tell us how when they first puffed it, it took them to heaven. They found themselves in paradise. So I think something like that. So so Sister Ida, yes, you're right. So Odysseus didn't want them to forget about returning to Ithaca after the Trojan War. So he had to quickly live with them. Those who have gone to Afghanistan and have seen this fruit, this lotus plant in Afghanistan, we know is a source of all kinds of wars. A lot of the Afghan war is all around this lotus fruit, this lotus plant that somehow is a narcotic plant. Sister, thank you for that history lesson. Brother Fijin.
Yeah, let me proceed now. It's a very interesting history, and I think even the priesthood sometimes live on drugs. I don't know if it's spiritual drugs that make them think. But let me. So in the first paragraph, I think this is Kwame Nkrumah speaking here, that said that at this point, I wish to underline in this respect that the priests had grounded their power on all manners of social hierarchy in the supernatural account of the world. And I think this is what we encountered sometimes back when Thales was explaining the Greek society and the power that the divine, so-called divine power that the priests were holding in such societies. And that was because to them, the world was not natural, it was supernatural. And then they could account on events in the world on how either based on some supernatural power trying to control and dictate everything else. So they assumed a higher hierarchy a bit in such a society. And that's what...
Yes. Before you continue, so what was the supernatural account that they gave? Can you recall that for us?
I can't clearly recall that, but I remember when they were saying that if somebody did a mistake in a society, that mistake was to be punishable. The whole society had to either get into danger by one person's mistakes.
Okay, fine. In an agricultural society, what role do priests play in terms of the account of society?
Agricultural society?
Yeah, in the typical agricultural society, what role do priests play?
I think they used to pray for rain.
Precisely. And what is their account of why does it rain according to the priests?
I don't know, is God loving or God is happy with to bless the produce, or some people talk of very funny aspect of rain is either God helping himself, or God is crying, or God is happy to I'm not sure what I can't remember the account that they gave, but
so when it doesn't rain, can anyone approach the gods?
No, they have to approach the priest.
Precisely, so you can see the hierarchy there.
But even today, brother Kwame, is that it's only the priest you believe that if you go to priest to pray for you, God will forgive you your sins.
Yeah. When King Charles was coronated, who coronated him?
The priest.
I think it was the church.
Precisely. Did you see that stone that was brought from Scotland?
Yes.
Precisely. So you can see the hierarchy there. Thank you. Can continue with your sharing your thinking.
So yes. So this hierarchy actually made them be more powerful than even the so-called leaders of a society, either the political or whatever. So they were consulted in all manners of everything. They were like, they know it all. And everything that they knew was based on their divine knowledge, the so-called divine knowledge, that they could then connect to these supernatural beings. So this actually made them be more powerful than any other person in the society, or give them a better hierarchy or a higher hierarchy. So here is that when Anaximander is coming in, and Thales also, when he was trying to bring now the aspect of water in a Ionian society, basically he was trying to destroy that power of the priesthood and its associated arbitrary social structure, the structure that they were above other people in the society. That's what they were trying to destroy. And in this, in order for them to destroy that, what I'm getting here, they could not follow the same route of supernatural beings, but rather they could have to follow, they introduce the called natural account. And I think Thales have consistently said that there were two revolutions, I think if I can remember up there, and one of them was when he was able to explain nature in terms of nature, something like that. The revolution, I can't clearly remember it, but there were two revolutions that Thales was putting forth. So you're trying to change the order of things, that it is not God who is trying to help himself, or who is angry, or who is happy. That's why it's raining. But rather you can account to the rain based on scientific or supernatural issues or being, like now people say it's either global warming or water, whatever is happening. That's why it's raining or not raining. Now, this was actually then to remove the power of this priesthood, because if there are the people who are on top there to explain how things happen in a supernatural world, and now you're trying to say that everything here is natural. Because I remember when we finished our first chapter, it was that there was a clear indication and a clear understanding as a convergence that our universe is a natural universe. But the priesthood could not accept the universe being natural. To them, it's a supernatural universe where there's some supernatural. I think Brother Carrington explained to us something like metaphysics, which is either beyond physics, if that's what my understanding. So by trying to say that the universe is a natural universe and its basic law is matter, or it's controlled by nature, then basically you are reducing the power of the priesthoods or the priests, and you're destroying it totally. So you destroy their power. Or when people can understand that there's nothing like the supernatural, something up above that control a lot of things, but these are natural processes in the universe, then the priesthood will not still maintain their social structure, or neither should they still have their so-called divine power. In that way, actually, the philosophy now served as an instrument of social justice. And I think social justice, to my understanding in this aspect, is up there we've been discussing issues to do with equality and the rest in a society. But I don't think if there could be equality when there are people who are in a higher structure than other persons. So there could be enough justice in a society, or what you call equal or social justice, which they say they needed to be a social principle. And Anaximander said that in the last paragraph, there was a need for a social principle that could then inform social justice or inform principle of justice. So in this place, I think when they were reduced, their power was taken away, the so-called sacerdotal power, then it reduced them to be equal with any other person. And in that way, they were all at the same level in a society. So they could not assume their higher levels in a society. And I think, to my thinking, that's what could actually now made everyone equal, and then could actually lead to what we call a social justice in a society. That's my little understanding in that paragraph. I'll try to go through the next paragraph and share my thinking later. Back to you, Brother Connie.
So what, your presentation, your thinking is all on the first paragraph? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it's all on the first paragraph.
Okay. Thank you. Shall we hear from Brother Joseph, please?
Yeah. First of all, I would like to say that there are parallel in the world up to this point where that what we're discussing exists. For instance, I'll give two examples, one that was broken down and one that's still in operation. In the case of the Islamic Republic, you have the supreme leaders, that council of the guardians. They vet everything. I mean, nothing can go against them. Anything that they don't agree with has to be struck down. So that they leave the politics with the folks in Tehran, and also while they're in the holy city of Qom, they sort of regulating. So there are patterns of that still happening. And probably what the folks in Iran need is to break down that sort of tier of control. In the case of closer to home, there was a time in Grenada when we had what we call the Lenten season. That's a pre-Lenten season, European pre-Lenten, when everything cultural, very especially of African orientation, and I'm bringing it deliberately, had to be shut down. So we couldn't play steel band, we couldn't sing calypso for 40 days. Up come the People's Revolution in 1979, Socialist People's Revolution, and knock away this. And it have not gone back, even though there's there's a practice by the church and so on, but the hold it had on the rest of the population is not there. Now, in terms of the passage itself, I think what needs to be looked at here is that how human beings have from time to time justify their behavior with some out of this world explanation. And of course, the longer people accept it, is the more it's, and I think it was last week, somebody gave an example of people who, cooked and they would cut out part of the food because the pot couldn't fit in the pot until someone asked the question, why? The question was, grandmother do this, mother do that, and we're doing it now. So unless you question stuff, it continues. And I think that's what was in play and why people like Eximanus and Thales, they sought to undo those things, which was in one form revolutionary. I think I will stop here for now.
Thank you very much. So let's hear from Sister Ida, please.
Still trying to read it and understand it.
Yeah, read it and understand it. Shall we bear in mind that we have to be able to either explain or understand why Anaximander differed from Thales, because Thales says that water is the origin of the universe. If as what, so there are only two sources of the universe. It's either spirits and the ideas or matter. Thales says matter. Well, the priest said spirit and the ideas is the source of the universe. Thales says no, it's water. Then Anaximander comes and says, no, it's not water. It's something else. Yeah. Why? We need to understand why he did that. The reason we need to understand is because we need to understand the relationship between philosophy and society. Every society has a philosophy. And the kind of society you want to build will inform the kind of philosophy you put forward. Okay? So if Anaximander is proposing another material element as opposed to water as the origin of the universe, then we need to understand why. So let's keep that in mind as we read and as we read and try and understand what we are reading, bearing in mind that ultimately the question that we would like to answer is, if Africa is to unite, develop, and liberate itself or herself or himself, he or she needs a philosophy. And the philosophy that he would need cannot be the same philosophy that enslaved her or that enslaved him. You understand? The philosophy that colonized us, enslaved us, stole our brothers and sisters, then went on to colonize us, cannot be Well, it cannot be. The same philosophy that we then want to use to liberate ourselves, unite the continent, and develop the continent. It cannot be. If it is, then we are mad. So,
Okay.
so we should begin to understand why the liberals and conservatives who have taken power, political power across the continent, are not moving anything forward. That should begin to make us understand why we are where we are and not moving forward. So I'm mentioning this so when we are reading, we bear in mind the crux of the matter, because it's easy to forget why you are reading what you are reading. Yeah, so bear that in mind. Thank you.
Okay,
so,
then
you want to continue, or shall I come back
yeah,
to you?
I will try. I will try.
Excellent.
Because I have certain things.
I like that spirit. Try,
Okay.
try and try, try and try. You'll succeed
Okay.
at last.
Okay. I think that what this paragraph is telling us is that Anaximander was not a lotus eater. He was always after change, and that he didn't find it revolutionary where the monarchists were heading in their or what they claimed to be their revolution, and that he felt that his principle of justice was one which called for social change. For he could not see an egalitarian. Yes, so a society
you
that
need to
was
say
for all.
Egalitarian.
Egalitarian. Egalitarian society. So he couldn't see that. So he didn't think that it was a society for everybody. And therefore, he felt that he had to introduce, or he had to strive towards opening people's eyes. And this sort of reminds me of something I read today, which was someone critiquing the Anglican Church's reparation plans. And it was very interesting, because what the person said was that at the end of the day, it's not reparations, it's that they want to still be in charge of the money that they're handing out and the change that they want to see. And I think that this whole thing here speaks of that to me, only because I read it today and now I'm seeing it here, in that here's someone who can see beyond what society is used to or is prepared to say is acceptable. I think.
So what would you say then? What would you say is the motivation for Anaximander to switch from Thales, from what you were saying?
Because he doesn't see the egalitarianness of it all. It doesn't affect everybody in society. And I think that a lot of Africa's problems are, it's the elite at the top who benefit, but it doesn't benefit everybody in society. So the people at the bottom stay exactly in the same position and are bogged down by all the struggles that are put on them by the elite.
So are you then suggesting that if Thales is saying water is the source of the universe, that may well be good, but it only makes a certain class powerful, not everyone?
Well, it's only those who can get their hands on the water are benefiting, who are benefiting in a big way.
Okay.
Those who have to walk for miles to find water, or those who can't have wells to get the water out of the ground, they're not benefiting. And so the government isn't doing anything to make it fair for all. I mean, I was really surprised.
So those who cannot build ships to engage in trade and commerce
Yes.
will also not have power.
Yes, because
So in other words, even though Thales had shifted social power from the priests, he was still not embracing everyone.
Yes, he was embracing a certain class of people.
Okay, so
And I think
can you then
Alex,
so can you then so can you then see how and why Anaximander becomes important for us in terms of what he is suggesting?
yes, because he's opening
Yes.
people's eyes to the fact that it's a bigger world than what we're being told to recognize, and that there are a lot more people who are suffering. It's a bit like if you go to most of the streets in London, most of the time you'll see people along the streets. They're waiting there. They're waiting there. What are they waiting there for? They're drinking. They're waiting there. They're waiting there. Why is it that that society hasn't managed to embrace them enough? Or you might say they're lotus eaters, but embrace them enough to lift them up from that lotus eating class, or from that class where they stay at the bottom. I think that he is looking beyond just the people who have to the have-nots.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you
for your precise and incisive sharing of your thinking. Let's now go to the reader of the text, Sister Tapua. But Brother Pigeon wants to see something. Yes, Brother Pigeon.
Now, will I be right to say that in this case, Thales can be perceived as a conservative Pan-African, and Anaximander can be perceived as a progressive Pan-African? If they are,
if that you can share your thinking on that, let's hear what brothers and sisters think. Go on, share it. Why do you think that? Share why you think that. Then Sister Poa can come in. She may agree with you or disagree with you. Let's see.
Up here, when Anaximander is coming in this paragraph I'm highlighting up here, Anaximander is bringing a class issue on Thales' political actual life. And therefore, is thinking that the thoughts or the thinking of Thales was to fit his class, and that his class was out of the social reality in matter of social structures in a society. So to him, his thinking and ideas were for his social class. And therefore, to Anaximander, that could not be a proper social principle for justice for all. And that's why Anaximander is now coming with something here. When you go down, he's now saying that he conceived a stock of neutral material, not only a material that could be accessible to some class of people, like what we have been saying, that water might have been accessible to those who have the means. But here he's trying to talk of a neutral material that then can be accessible by anybody and everybody.
Right. So, okay, so the question then to you is, could this neutral material just be matter? Because we all come from the same matter.
No,
so matter is neutral.
No, but in this sense, that matter can be instead of water.
Yes, and I'm suggesting when we say matter, we don't refer to just water, do we?
Yes.
We also refer to fire. Yeah, fire as matter. We refer to air as matter, and then we refer to solids also as matter. And yet Thales only took one, liquid. And as the matter is saying, well, why just the liquid? Yeah. What do you think?
No, you've challenged me a lot. let me process my thinking again.
Okay, let's go. Sister Tapua, and then we come to Brother Joseph. Sister Tapua, you read. Yes. So what do you think?
I think after listening to everyone, my focus has been on the last phrase of the first paragraph. Yes. Philosophy served as an instrument of social justice. And the moment that paragraph referred to social justice, it brought to mind divine justice. Because with divine justice, there is no, you have no say, the rules are set.
What is divine
You are
justice? Before you continue, tell us what is divine justice.
right. It's justice that it's justice where the rules, you don't take part in the rules. The rules come from up there, and all you need to do is obey the rules. If you don't obey the rules, yes, if you don't obey
from upwards, just enlighten us.
well, from the priests who are in touch with God. So right, so we're going back there. So for me, social justice involves the idea that it's society that decides what's just. In other words, everybody takes part in this process and there's some kind of consensus. Because I have seen, when I looked closely at this paragraph, it reflected for me the Zimbabwean situation that's very frustrating for me. Because the church has become so powerful. It's giving people, it's making people lotus eaters. And they're living more, their minds and everything else is more attuned to going to heaven and not solving the problems that we have here. Because people now they feel they're at the mercy of the heavens.
So,
because
Sister
they feel
are you suggesting then that the island that Sister Ida brought to our attention in the Odyssey, that the churches are like those islands where people go, they eat lotus and then they forget about the real world?
Absolutely. And for me, that's what happened when the colonialists came. We were focused more on going to heaven. The poor shall inherit the earth. At some point in some future, when they're busy collecting things and making sure that we are destitute and we don't focus on the theft that was going on. So the same thing is being discussed here. And Anaximander is trying to move people from that heady kind of looking at things to being more practical, being more in tune with society and so on. But I think that position is going to be challenged by the expressions at the end of the second paragraph.
Can you share that with us? Share your thinking with us.
Okay. Because I think it's the penultimate sentence which starts, his principle of justice was one which called for social change, for he could not see an egalitarian society as one in which everything was permanently as it was. So there's an element of change there, that even when we try to work at an egalitarian society, things have to keep moving. And then that phrase, in which inequalities remain undisturbed. Right, so we now have someone else who accepts Anaximander's thoughts, but Heraclitus has to introduce the conception, the notion of growth. So whilst Anaximander wanted everything to be neutral and to be fair and just, he does not quite acknowledge the growth and the changes that take place. So we're introduced to a new philosopher.
So from that, then, can we understand that philosophy itself is something that grows, something that evolves?
Yes, absolutely. Because
so
social justice,
the paragraph that you drew our attention to, go on.
No, I was just about to say, because social justice is not a destination. Social justice is something that you continuously work on, and as society grows and decides what's just for a particular type of society, that's when you have the differences, for example, between what's going on in Europe with homosexual approaches to homo and heterosexual ideas compared to the societies that are still looking at the priesthood as the source of their, redemption and power. So you have that difference. So it's understanding that as societies evolve at different paces, you then have social justice, which in one context does not look like social justice, but in another it does, because each part of society is beginning to reason for itself and to say this is just or this is socially unjust.
Yeah. So the paragraph you draw attention to, which is the last paragraph in the last line of the first paragraph that you read, which says, in this way, philosophy served as an instrument of social justice. Why do you think Nkrumah was drawing our attention to that?
I think it's because the African struggle has been for social justice.
Excellent.
Because
you've hit the nail right on the head.
Yes, because philosophy, I mean, I was stunned when the first time I got to know about the slave Bible, where certain things were removed to disempower the African who could read the Bible so that they could only see what was to the advantage of the people who were colonizing us. So if we're going to talk about social justice, like you said, we have to move away from the system that was used to disempower us. But at the same time, we're running into the danger of people not quite understanding the power that, I'm not sure whether to call it African traditional religion or, African traditional religion, because you're moving back into the same trap, but it's the same trap. It's just a different name. Whereas spirituality it focuses more on the growth of the individual and social justice. So it brings us into this whole new world of understanding what's what. And there's the challenge.
Right. So our struggle is about social justice. And social injustice was imposed on us. When, for example, in Kenya, they stole our lands.
Yes.
Through dubious laws. Zimbabwe the same, and so on and so forth. So now we want our land back.
Yes.
And to have our land back, we need a philosophy that will enable us to get that land.
Yes.
So in Kenya, they resorted to the Mau Mau. The Mau Mau invoked a certain traditional African perspective. And that's what they used to fight for the restoration of land.
Yes.
So you will agree that in this line, Nkrumah is reminding us that the whole point of philosophy is social justice.
Yes, definitely.
It's not so we can be lotus eaters and forget about it. And thank you very much for your insights.
You're welcome.
Let's now go to Brother Joseph. He had his hand up. I think he wanted to say something earlier. Brother Joseph, you wanted to add something?
Yes. Mainly in response to your question. But before that, just bear in mind that philosophy is not neutral. It is an instrument that can be colored, as Noam Chomsky says in his book, Manufacturing Consent. And what has happened over the years since our captivity and colonization is that effort to make us known, to take away our identity and also make us other than we are. So the religion or the religious or the spirituality which form part of the African philosophy was demonized and everything to do with it. But I want to say two things. One is that in order to help people understand, the word lotus is associated with Buddha. And it is said that Buddha became enlightened under the lotus tree. And it would seem as though, for instance, his approach was only maybe might say selfish, because while he was dissatisfied with the social order over in India, where he came from, he journeyed to Burma and sat under the lotus tree until he became enlightened. But his enlightenment didn't bring any emancipation to people, because it was being done in isolation. I'll just say that. So, but to take you now to South Africa, in terms of philosophy, in terms of social justice, the land without compensation, because despite the fact a philosophy of democracy does not bring emancipation or liberation, because in fact, in spite of the one man, one vote thing in South Africa, the people condition have not changed. And part of the reason, or the main reason, is because they're not the owner of the land, which is the land. And they come back to that idea of natural, the whole thing about things are worked out here and now in the natural world. And as Malcolm X said, land is the basis of independence. And land here represents everything, even with power, money, and so on. So we need to see how this, what we are reading here, how it applies, or how it's not working in some parts of the continent, or even some parts where majority of African people are, in spite of that effort for social justice and so on, because there's no real social justice in South Africa, when you have the majority of people still living out in almost abject poverty, in spite of the fact of 30 years of so-called democracy or liberation, whatever. So I think we could focus here and see how what we are reading here teaches us to understand what is happening in South Africa and what is necessary. Because although the democracy, in the case of it might be what Thales advocated in terms of water, it still haven't been satisfactory, and we need something more. And that's where, and then also when Dr. Mandela came in, and also the last person whose name I've not even internalized yet. But then we look at what's happening in South Africa, the ANC, the role of the ANC, and then the breakaway from the ANC to the EFF was saying we need to take things further. Land without compensation is part of the bringing things forward. I hope I've made sense.
No, thank you. But Brother Joseph, so your first point about the fact that philosophy is not neutral, that is the point here. That is the point. That is what we are reading here, that philosophy can be the basis for social inequalities. And that's what the priests in Greece did. And so when we come up with our own philosophy, of course, it cannot be neutral. Why? Because it wants to overthrow social injustice. So that's the first point. The second point about the lotus, the lotus eaters that went with Odyssey, in the Odyssey, and when they ate the fruit, they forgot about home. They didn't want to return home anymore to Ithaca. The lotus in Buddhism is to do with enlightenment. So there's a slight difference there. The lotus plant became like a symbol for how you can start your journey from mud, which is what the lotus plant is, and then out of mud it grows, and then it transforms itself into a beautiful plant. So it's almost like a symbol for the African. We are told that the ancient Buddha was an African. So there is some evidence that he was an African. He was a black man.
That's the second. The point I'm making. The point I'm making here is that while what it might be helpful, because we see even today where Buddhists, what they do to other people. I mean, it has not helped even in avoiding point, whether it's the Karen people or the other people that make up the state of Burma. or even in Sri Lanka with the Tamil and so on. I'm just saying what he did was helpful in the sense that it helped to give another pathway. But basically, he was not involved socially. He was under the tree, whether eating or wherever it is, where he got his enlightenment. He was acting with the satisfaction of the social order that he came out of back in India, where the poverty and so on, when you look out on the street and that kind of thing. I'm saying similarly to Thales, where Thales sought to explain things. It didn't go far enough. And where they may be the first step, what the Buddha did. We need to connect stuff. Where the Buddha.
Yes, I was just adding to what you said, Brother Joseph. Okay. I wasn't saying you were wrong. I was just adding to what you said. Then the third point you made about, I think that is something we are doing here, and we agree with you totally, that when we are reading these things, we must always bear in mind that the whole point of this book is so that the African personality, wherever they happen to be, whether in Zanzibar, where our brother Glenroy is, whether it's in the African Caribbean, where our brother Joseph is, whether it's in England, where I am based, or Kenya, where Brother Pigeon is based, or Zimbabwe, wherever, that at the end of the day, it is for the African personality to help transform the world in which we live. Because the world in which we live is not the kind of world we want to live in as Africans, because it discriminates against us in all kinds of ways. So thank you very much for that. We haven't heard from others, but let's hear Sister Tapua, then we'll hear from those who haven't spoken. So we've got Brother Coco, Brother Coco hasn't spoken, Brother Glenroy hasn't spoken, General hasn't spoken. I noticed Brother Carrington, our resident physicist, hasn't spoken. So yes, yes, Sister Tapua.
I'm looking at the sentence. The sentence is starting. Anaximander was not a lotus eater, and he could not allow society to remain dormant. I'm thinking, amongst ourselves as Africans, there are Africans who are lotus eaters, who've been to places.
And then there are others like Mugabe who are not lotus eaters.
And not only lotus eaters in the form of having gone out of the continent and not wanting to come back or to associate, but resident Africans who are lotus eaters, who are happy with the status quo as it is, because they're complacent with the social structure which was current in his time. So we've got amongst us people who are complacent with the social structure. They like the organization of African unity, whatever we now call it, and they're happy about it. Yes. And they have all their heads in cloud cuckoo land. I mean, social justice is lost to them.
For it. Cloud cuckoo land. Kumbaya, or Kumbaya. They were saying Kumbaya all the time. Yes. So, thank you very much for reminding us that there are liberal and conservative lotus eaters on the continent. And we don't want to be lotus eaters. We want transformation, which is why we need a philosophy. Thank you very much, Sister Tapua, for that. So we haven't heard from three brothers and Brother Carrington. So let's hear from Brother Carrington, please.
Good evening, everyone. Good morning from wherever you are in the world. So a lot has been said about the two passages. I think a lot has been exhausted, but just to give it a bit of context, we are still discussing the pre-Socratic philosophers, the philosophers who became before Socrates, who instituted an ethical revolution. Maybe we will see in the next few passages. But this idea is still being communicated constantly in the last few pages, that philosophy is a basis for ideology. Ideology is a basis of policy, of social organization, and this policy then shapes practice. Very simply, what you believe about the world, you can call this metaphysics, will influence how you act in the world. And therefore, again, has been communicated severally in the previous passages, a revolution is not necessarily a destruction or not necessarily just a destruction of structure. It is also a destruction of mentality. It is also, therefore, a destruction of the metaphysical or philosophical basis of a social organization structure, right? And this is what the first paragraph essentially communicates, that the possibility of transformation. Yes.
Can I interrupt you there?
Yeah.
So if it is a destroyer of that which has gone before, is it just a destroyer? Is it also a builder?
It must be the forces of creation and destruction are what we call change, right? We are back to the dialectic, the oppositional action of creation and destruction. You are right. Yes. Of course, a revolution without a structure, a revolution even of thinking without a structure is what we call madness. If we are to throw off as Africans, what we call foreign religions or foreign. Yes.
What is madness? Can you repeat that?
An ideological, leaderless revolution is a very dangerous thing. A non-ideological, non-philosophical, leaderless, directionless revolution is a dangerous thing, specifically because it ends in any state. And this is what is called madness.
Brother Carrington, are you by any chance referring to the Gen Z in Kenya?
I do not believe the Gen Z are specifically leaderless, and I do not believe they are directionless. In fact, they have been very clear that their direction points north, and their north star is the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya. They have been extremely clear. They go to protest carrying the Constitution as their Bible. They are very clear.
And are they clear on their philosophical and ideological?
I am worried about that.
That's enough of my question to you.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm worried about that. Anyway. However, there are elements, of course, of Pan-Africanism, elements of socialism, African socialism in the protest. But this is not elaborated. However, back to the Greeks, because they carried on their revolution, at least we can talk about it. This replacement by Thales of priestly power or theocratic power by mercantile power, the power of the merchants and traders, was seen as problematic to Anaximander. So if the claim here is that everything is equal, but people serve different but fundamentally equal roles in society, then the power that the mercantile class has accumulated from trade with the Egyptians and the people of the East has also given them some sort of unequal control over society. The lotus eaters here stop being the priestly class. The lotus eaters here, I propose, start being the mercantile class. Just like the Industrial Revolution in Britain weakened the aristocratic land-owning class, not completely, but weakened them nonetheless, and empowered the new capitalist class. And the transformation of British society was not as fundamental, at least materially, as we would expect it to be in the late 18th and early 19th century. So Anaximander is struggling with this. He then asks himself a very simple question. If this static order is to be maintained, then it means the end result is not really a change of society, but a change of who is on top of society. And therefore, Anaximander starts to do two things. One, a metaphysical change, a change in a model of the world. The universal mode stops being water. The primordial matter stops being water. It starts being some ethereal substance that is in the universe. What does this do? This removes the metaphysical claim that the merchants have to Greek society. This is the effect, if not the aim. Secondly, allowing for transformation. Oppositional forces within society must resolve themselves somehow and somewhat. Okay, and these oppositional forces are what we call the action and reaction of these oppositional forces. Remember, in the previous chapter, we talked about the dialectic. These oppositional forces are what lead to changes. And these changes are the important thing in assuring some form of egalitarianism in society. This is important. Why is this important? By definition, you cannot have a frozen egalitarian society. Just like you cannot look at water in the fridge, which has become ice, and still insist that you want to drink ice. There ought to be a certain fluidity in water for you to drink it. There ought to be a certain fluidity in society for it to have the potential of change. And in the next step, we are going to see the next pre-Socratic philosopher instituting metaphysical changes again and exploring the implications of this metaphysical change. That is Heraclitus, who I guess will deal with growth. Growth here to me means positive change. Positive change. Change is possible. Collapse is change. Change is growth is also some form of change. Change is neutral. So yes, this is my submission for the passage. Thank you.
Thank you. And you've explained this very well. I have a task for you, Brother Carrington. Since you understand what the Gen Zs are doing, and you agree with me that we haven't heard much about their philosophical and ideological position, it's like young people in Ghana saying the 1992 Constitution of Rawlings must hold, when that Constitution is actually a military constitution, which they don't understand the Constitution. So I haven't read the Constitution of Kenya to know what kind of constitution it is, but you would know. So my task for you is this: between you, myself, and Brother Pigeon, we can share with others. Can we give voice to the philosophical and ideological implications of what the Gen Zs are doing, so we can put it out there to help guide them? Is that something that you are willing to lead for us? Yeah, you want to
lead? Yes, yes.
Because what you've explained goes the heart of that question.
The issue, yeah, true. And I guess this is why we are doing this.
So do a write-up based on this and share it with us, and let us agree, and then let us release it as coming from the CSG to the Gen Zs.
I would, Brother Pigeon, just before you jump in, I would really strongly invite Brother Pigeon to lead the efforts for two reasons. One, he's been very active on the ground. I have gone for protests in London.
I disagree.
But I will be there. I will be involved directly and constantly.
I disagree. You put together the first draft, and then Brother Pigeon and I will
okay.
Thank you. Brother Pigeon, when it comes to explaining it, Brother Carrington will lead the explanation to the people of Kenya.
Yeah, I have gone back a bit to highlight a paragraph we had interacted previously.
Yeah, before
just
that,
because of the...
yeah, hold on, hold your thought there. Let Sister Ida say what she's burning to share, and then we'll continue with what you are sharing. Brother Sister Ida.
I just want to confirm with Brother Carrington. Are you calling the elite of countries lotus eaters?
Precisely.
I found that very, very interesting.
This is why. And please, I would ask you to go to Al Jazeera and check Kenyan politicians' flashy lifestyle. Our political class was completely divorced, not just from the country, not just from the continent, but from the world. And when Brother Christian was talking about the definition of lotus eaters, I was just like, wow. And I'm sure Brother Pigeon can bear me out on this. It exactly describes the political class in Kenya. And that's why they've been violently shocked by these young people. They've been violently shocked by these young people. They don't know what to do. They're still scrambling around. They're so confused because they've been brought down to earth. And it is shocking to them because they knew that come out occasionally, make some little noise, get on your helicopter, fly to Nairobi, go to Dubai, come back, make some little noise. They were completely divorced from the country and even reality, just reality in of itself. It's very interesting, actually. Yes.
Do you know, I've never thought of it like this. Excuse me coming back, but they say that even in Westminster, there's a lot of
lotus eaters.
Yes, a lot of white powder going around.
Okay.
Never thought of it like that. Interesting. Thank you.
Money.
Some people say that there's more lotus eating in that building than outside the building. So brother Carrington, you lead out for us. Now let's go to Brother.
I will. Thank you.
So did you finish what you were saying, Brother Carrington? Finish and then Brother.
Yes. Thank you, Sister Ida. This is exactly the point. And the reason why Kwame Nkrumah separates Telis and Anaximandire is exactly that. Telis, remember, the material conditions of Telis personally was that he was a very extremely wealthy person, because he was able to play around. I forget what he was trading in, but it is in the passages before. But he was able to play around with it and get very wealthy. And from this, he was able to buy luxury. And that's why I think Kwame Nkrumah tries utmost to separate these two people because of their material backgrounds impacting their metaphysics, and vice versa, their metaphysics telling them about how to organize society. Yeah.
I think he cornered the market for olives. Was that it?
Yes. My memory has just failed me. That's exactly it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Thank you. But Sister Ida, it's lotus, not locusts, please. Yeah. It's lotus eaters, not locust eaters.
Oh, sorry. In my mind, I'm saying lotus. I mean locust. Lotus.
Lotus. Yeah. The lotus is a plant. The locust is the flower.
It's
like a flower. Yeah.
Lotus.
Right.
A locust.
Yes. So let's hear from. So we heard from Brother Carrington. Let's now hear from Brother. Yes, Brother Pigeon. Yes, now coming. Sorry.
No. Based on what you are talking about and the examination of what you are assigning Brother Carrington to do, I've decided just to go back a bit in this paragraph. I've highlighted, I don't know if it's in color blue or green, that says that the interaction between the alteration of social circumstances and the content of consciousness is not one-sided. For circumstances can be changed by revolution, and revolution are brought about by men who think and act as men and as men of thought. But the last aspect I want to concentrate on is, it is true that revolutionaries are produced by historical circumstances. At the same time, they are not chaff before the wind of change. Now, this is where I want to concentrate on, but have a solid ideological basis. And I think that's where in with the aspect of where is the ideological basis in this demonstration and how what that direction in it. That's why I like that.
Precisely. Because that's the whole point of consensusism. That our young people must be armed with with a philosophy and an ideology. You can't just be shouting constitution, the ambassador of the US must leave, the IMS must leave. They can leave, but you can still be under their control. The foreigners left, didn't they? When we got colonial freedom, they left, but are we still free? No. So as they're leaving, it doesn't solve the problem. So let's hear now from.
Okay.
So, yeah, sorry, Brother Pidgin, finish what you were saying.
What you're saying is very clear, because when the young people protested in the street, the opposition leader decided to join the government. So they're eating together.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, Brother Coco.
Greetings, comrades. This is an interesting conversation today because it touches on the core of the problem with us as Africans. I think you just referred to that briefly, in that the colonial left, but they only left what we could see. I mean, what left Africa were them in physical form, but they left lots and lots of stuff in Africa for us that continue to run for them the way they want Africa to run. I hope people understand exactly what I'm saying, because Kenyan economy is not working for the Kenyans. It's working for someone else. It continues to be one of the prime examples of neocolonialism. Kenya has lots and lots of prime land, but that prime land is in the hands of a few elites, and majority of them, some of it is owned by the foreigners, and common men do not have access to resources in Kenya. But what they have done is to make Kenyans, especially the rich ones, the educated ones, think that they are now white, or they are now on the same level as the whites. And I just wish they could come and live here in England for like a year. Then they will understand how the whites think. And work 9 to 5, not come here with their money and spend their money. It's not the same. The thing is, we as Africans, we have been brainwashed or indoctrinated, if that is the right word. And my Christian brothers in here and sisters will have to forgive me on this one, but religion has been a tool for that. It's been a tool to make people think that everyone in the world is equal. There is some elements of that in this passage here, to say all men are equal. And democracy, again, we say we are casting votes. We say every man, each man one vote. But we don't all get the same benefits out of democracy. Some get better, as in huge benefits from that. Is the political elites, which the Kenyan youths are trying to dislodge as we speak. The fellow Kenyans, they vote, but they never see anything out of their votes. And again, now, they have issues with their government. The question is, what levers of power can they pull to change the system? There's no way they can change the system except to riot, to protest. That is what is happening. Egalitarianism, as Aximander said, keeps changing. It has to change. It cannot be static. It cannot, it has to keep evolving, because there are inequalities in all the societies. But what is most interesting for me to observe is that the Berlin conference borders. We are protecting them by all means. I think once it's almost
Brother Kuku,
yeah.
before you continue, can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
You say that Africans have been brainwashed.
Yes.
Is that a fair statement? Do you not mean some Africans rather than Africans?
That's as a generalization. Fair challenge.
That's what I'm questioning. Can you just generalize like that? Is that is it fair to generalize like that? Then an entire population like that?
No. To be honest, when I say that, it's because it's hard for those who are enlightened to pull out of darkness those who are brainwashed. So which means the majority of us, even though minority of Africans are enlightened, it's hard for them to lead those who are brainwashed out of that situation where they are.
Yeah, but hold on. You are now saying two things. You are saying Africans are brainwashed. Now you are saying the majority of Africans are enlightened. Which one is it?
No. Majority of Africans are brainwashed.
Are brainwashed. So not Africans. Okay.
Not then all of them.
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
Do you have any statistics to prove what you're saying?
Oh, it's amazing.
It's just a question,
yeah. Well, I cannot prove.
I mean, how so the question, how did you measure it? How did you come up with the measurement that majority of Africans are brainwashed?
Let's talk about the Berlin borders, which is a point I was going to come to. The Berlin borders have stayed despite
hold on. Brother Cook, hold on, because it was because you got there that I brought you back to your initial comment, because the Berlin borders are there, but according to the evidence, the ordinary Africans are crossing the Berlin borders all the time, trading with their neighbors. Now they don't respect those borders. Yeah, it is the powers that be that are maintaining those borders. Sister Grace Chizomo, who is not here today, gave us the example of the guy who died, and the ordinary people refused to bring his corpse 100 miles down the river, 100 miles up the river, because part of Malawi was here, the other one was there. They refused. So the ordinary Africans are not respecting the borders. So I think I'm raising this so that you don't say that Africans are maintaining the borders, because not all Africans are maintaining the borders. It is some Africans in office. Is that fair?
No, it's not fair, because we allow them. We allow them. Yeah.
How do you allow them?
For instance, right now, I've never heard the Kenyans complain about the construct of Kenya. They're happy with what they have in Kenya. In fact, they want to fight for it. I don't see them fighting in the context of wider Africa. I don't see that. So everywhere it happens.
So you are based in Lesotho. I know you're not based there now.
Yeah.
Do Lesotho fight for the maintenance of the Lesotho borders?
Yes. Unfortunately, yes. That's one of the reasons I was saying that
they fight for the maintenance of Lesotho's borders.
Yes, within South Africa. Majority of Lesotho would rather have that nation independent of South Africa, even though lots of unemployed Lesotho, they cross over into South Africa and they are treated as foreigners in South Africa. They need papers to work in South Africa. They struggle. So it's only those who have felt the brand of the fire in South Africa that want those borders down. But the majority of Lesotho don't want that.
So have you seen any statistics that that affirms that? That says that the majority so Africans have been researched, and the statistical findings are that so and so percentage when the borders removed.
No.
Have you seen any
we cannot talk about quantitative statistics, because we haven't done that, or not everybody has done that, or anyone that I know has done that.
So do you not think that because we here are scientists, physicists, believe in science, the scientific approach to things. So do you not think that because we here want the unification of Africa, don't we? So if Africans do not want that, then we need to know, don't we? So would you not say that in that case we should be looking at how we can work with some kind of organization, maybe Afrobarometer, so that they do a study on the situation, so we know.
Yes, that's a good idea. I'm not against that, and I think that should be done. But what I have seen is that we are complacent about how things are. We are okay about how things are. We would rather chase the basic needs morning to evening, just trying to get something to feed our kids, somewhere to sleep, a roof over our heads. We are okay with that, but we don't care about the wider context of what is happening in Africa.
Sorry to interrupt you once again. This is not the whole point of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that when people are hungry, they can't discuss philosophy. And Sister Tapua here drew our attention to the fact that the reason we are here discussing philosophy is because we are not hungry. Because we have food to eat.
You're right.
we are, of course, but the reason is those of us who are hungry don't even know where to start. If they knew where to start about this philosophy, they will be here discussing this with us. You get it? So they have been put to sleep. It's best that way. To be told that they are the same as everyone else, and in fact, they are the same as their white brothers. Or they're the same as Jesus Christ on the cross. Or Jesus Christ has died for all of us, all of our sins.
Yes.
Exactly.
Amen.
Is that is where the problem is, my brother. That complacency comes from indoctrination or brainwashing. Even though there are some of those who are enlightened, they are being pulled down by those who are still in cloud cuckoo.
You are referring to a particular group of Africans who have that belief. There are Africans who do not have that belief. There are Africans who have no beliefs in these things. Anyway, can you kind of summarize your point so that brother Glenroy can also speak, because we have 10 minutes, about 9 minutes to go, and you two are the only ones who haven't spoken. So
okay,
if we can share the time between you two, then we
mine is going to be simple. I'll take 30 seconds left. In that we have been taught to think multiculturalism is the best solution. It works. If you try to talk about Pan-Africanism, they will look at you as if you are crazy, because they were taught that African countries are fine the way they are. Why are you disturbing them? In America, Malcolm X met a lot of resistance because he wanted separation, but he was put up against his own brothers, Martin Luther King and the rest, who wanted integration. Integration doesn't work. But here in Africa, we're supposed to be fighting for each other, but we are not, because we are being told we are different. I am Lesotho, you are Ghanaian, you stay in your corner. We need to wake up.
Yeah, that fight between integrationists and separationists, as you put it was the same struggle between Marcus Garvey and Du Bois. Marcus Garvey wanted separation, Du Bois wanted integration.
Exactly. Thank you.
Anyway, no, thank you. Sister Tapua quickly, and then Brother Glenroy can come in. Yeah. Yes, Sister Tapua.
I'll pass for now. I think. Sorry, I'm going to have to pass. Sorry.
Oh no. I'm saying you are going to say something, so you say it's for that Brother Glenroy can come in. Yeah, it's fine.
I'd like to give myself as an example. My heritage is, in terms of belief, is Christian. Part of my family was, the group that was used by European settlers to spread Christianity. I'm now woke, but it's like you cannot quite shed off the mentality it's a continuous struggle. You have to consciously work at it. And I meet so many people within my circles who are struggling because you're beginning to understand that Christianity will not work for us. But where are we going? So it's a process. And it is that process that informs me, just from my immediate circle, that the brainwashing is just beyond surface. It's everything. People are claiming ancestry of Abraham. People are denying their own heritage because I'm now a Christian, and they'll stand up and profess it. And you just sit there and look. And sometimes you just wonder, where do I start? So I totally understand why I would come up with a statement like, we've been brainwashed. Because there's no way you can be part of a community or an African society where you avoid because when I came back from Europe, I just say to myself, where do I go that's societal but is not church? And people told me, go to church as a club.
Yeah, but Sister Tapua, I mean, you do realize that, I mean, that position may well be good, but it has no philosophical basis. I mean, matter has powers of self-motion. So to deny that somehow all Africans are brainwashed has no philosophical basis. You can say some of them are, but not all of them.
Yes.
Now, there is an interesting, Brother Karen has shared with us evidence from Afrobarometer. Actually, Afrobarometer has done the research, Brother Koko, if you can look at it in the chat. 56% of Africans support free movement. They support a borderless Africa. So freely cross borders and work and trade. It's strongest in West Africa. It's weakest in North, weaker in North and South Africa. Nigeria, Kenya is 76% in Kenya supported cross-border trade. And
Can I come in briefly?
So it appears they don't support the. Yes, you can. Yes, let Brother Koko and then Brother Pigeon and then Brother Glenroy has his
time.
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
Brother Koko,
quick one. The leaders which we have are a reflection of the society in which we live in.
Not always, please. Not always. It doesn't. There's no scientific basis for that. I mean, sometimes you have elites who sit on society and don't want society to be free. Even if society wants to be free, the elites have so much power, they dominate the people. So to say that they are a reflection of society is not really correct, is it, Brother Koko?
Let me leave it there for time. We'll discuss it another time.
We'll discuss it another time. Brother Glenroy, sorry to keep you waiting. Please come in, our elder.
That's fine. I was actually counting down the clock and seeing really if there would be sufficient time. Unfortunately, you seem to have beaten the clock. I was quite amused with the cross-reference between locust and lotus eater. I was having vision of the locust eating all the lotus. But I think on a number of things, the concept about Gen Z, I think we need to recognize, and I don't think this is even an age thing, but I think it's about young people recognizing that despite all our aspiration, the globe hasn't delivered on the way African status should have been improved over these years. We fought liberation war, etc., and yet here we are, replaced simply with further colonialism called neocolonialism. So I think, there is an analysis going on among young people, which is in essence saying, what's gone before, whether it was yesterday or this afternoon, didn't work, hasn't worked. So I think there is a challenge to actually say, what it is that we have to bring to the table, because young people, I think are rightly fed up, and we ought to recognize that when we ferry into trying to say that we should give them guidance. I think they should be asking what guidance they need. And I know people say, well, they don't know because they haven't done this, but I think that they are fed up to the point where
We don't want to hear anything from us.
Sorry. Yeah, the philosophy that is sometimes used around, unless the youth of the village recognize that it's leading or there is a chance somewhere, that they'll either burn it down just to feel the warmth, So some of those kind of things are in play. But I wanted to, I think lotus eaters have been given a bad name in the sense of what does it frankly represent? Is it represent those who want to change? I understand in how it's written here, it was about people, as you've rightly said, who were then going to get themselves caught in a mesmerai about not wishing to go home. I get that. But I think the philosophy of what I was getting from people who wanted a difference, because as somebody said, a revolution destroy, but sometimes it also create. So I was taking from this that, I'm not a spiritual person. People say I am, but I don't consider myself a spiritual person. Certainly don't consider myself a religious person. But for example, our ancestors in Haiti and how they use religion, which could be put in the same context as other religion, but obviously was a different religion, was about delivering changes, was about delivering the benefit that those people who may have been caught up in a fantasy around locusts, around being mesmerized by religion in another way or other, could actually be people who are saying, we've had enough. We want to use our spirituality to change the situation. So it can be a vehicle of change. But I do say again, look at why Gen Z is making such a broad sweep. Because they're fed up. They've been let down. And as somebody's pointed out, some of these people got conned by Ruto to vote for him. And he's not delivered. And that's also basis of their frustration. But I think that's a wider context and perhaps need more time to discuss. I'll leave it there, Chair, because I realize I have just about beaten the clock.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I think the point you are making there, going back to the point that Brother Joseph made, in terms of the lotus as related to Gautama Buddha, and then the point I made was I was supposed to say that the lotus in Buddhism is linked with enlightenment and, if you like, a transformation. And so, in terms of those who use, for example, weed, we cannot conclude that all those who eat lotus in that sense do not get engaged with practical life, because Bob Marley, he engaged and he used music, the media, to call for transformation. So did our brothers who went to Ethiopia and so on. So in that sense, that kind of aligns more with the Buddhist, if you like, interpretation of lotus as something that you can use for transformation, as opposed to lotus eaters who as Brother Carrington has pointed out, like our leaders who go and shop in Dubai and come back and ride in big Mercedes, do not care about the people who are now shocked that the Gen Zs are asking questions. They may not know the philosophy, but they know when they're hungry. They know when they see injustice. They know when their children are not in school. So they can see you don't need philosophy to see that you are living in an unjust world. Maybe you may not have the philosophy to transform it, but I mean, you know when you are suffering, you know. So thank you all for coming, and thank you for your contributions. We shall continue next week, Thursday. And yeah, maybe final comments from Brother Pigeon.